So many runners think that running is a lower body sport. But if you think about it, running is a full body activity and your upper body matters just as much as your legs during running. Well, maybe not just as much, but it sure does make a big difference. So today we're talking all about upper body training for runners. We're going to be talking about why it's so important, how often you should be training it. And I'm also going to be giving you my 10 favorite exercises to train your upper body as a runner. So stay tuned. What's up, runners? Welcome back to the show. Today we're talking all about upper body training for runners. Kev, are you excited for this one?
Super excited. You know me and the upper body lifting. I'm just beach body is what we were
Jacked.
doing with all summer.
Beach body jacked, right?
Yes.
All right. So, do you think that a lot of people have questions about this?
Okay, so here's my first thought. When you said we're gonna do a thing on upper body, my
Hmm.
first memory of upper body lifting
Yeah.
outside of like PE class where we had to do push-ups in like grade
Hmm.
school, was when I was in high school. There was what I was told was a study. I don't even know if it was. I think it was just a rumor that spread through high school cross country teams that they had done a study on elite African marathoners
Hmm.
and found none of them could complete up to 5 push-ups.
None
And
of them.
so, yeah. And so that meant that like you didn't really need to train your upper body because
Hmm.
these were the best in the world. Now, before we hit record and we started doing this, I searched through the corners of the magic interweb and I found nothing.
Really?
And so then I was like, well, maybe they were talking about pull-ups. So then I tried to find that, nothing.
Yeah.
So I think this may have just been a rumor that spread through high school cross country teams because none of us wanted to lift.
So it's an urban legend.
I think it's a cross country legend. I
It's an
think that's
urban legend
possibly what we've got here.
that's
Well,
been passed down for generations to make the runners understand that you don't need to do upper body work.
yeah, I think it was a solid justification.
I like it. Well, the truth is, upper body work is very important. Maybe when you look at elite Kenyans or elite marathoners, like they do tend to look smaller in their upper body compared to sprinters for sure, right? And compared to triathletes and other kinds of athletes. And so maybe you think, oh, well, it's not as important. And there's probably also people out there that believe that a strong upper body might even slow you down because it's more muscle and more mass that's added on that you then just have to carry along with you.
And I mean, based off of the laws of physics, there
Mhm.
is a point because there's running bros now that are gym bros that are now running.
Yeah.
Look how fast I am while still being able to bench this, while still being able to deadlift this, and their upper body's huge and they're still running good times. I think that there's probably an upper limit if you're trying to see literally how fast you could run a marathon,
Mhm.
that there's a point where you could be too strong simply because you're carrying too much mass. But there's also very clearly a point where you're too weak, where
Mhm.
you have no upper body strength. I mean, we've got very good stuff inside of our podcast today about why you need some level of strength. That you don't need to go out there and get your shoulders as huge as possible. You know, you're not running along like I can't put my arms down. Like that's not what we're talking here. But you have to have some strength. It's helpful and not just so that you look better in the mirror. Although that can be a motivating factor.
I mean, I think that's a motivating factor for sure because that's definitely one of my motivating factors. I love to have defined muscles and things in my upper body. I think that it looks much better. I much prefer having shoulders that look good when I'm running in my tank tops.
Prefer having shoulders as opposed to not having shoulders.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
I know.
visible shoulder muscles.
Right. But this is the point is it's nice to have shoulders. It's nice to have a neck. Like we don't have to lift to the point that we don't have a neck anymore.
Well, I think that going to back to what you said, I think there probably is that tipping point where if you get too big, it could possibly start having a negative effect on your running economy, but most people are never going to get to that point because most people just don't lift enough to ever get to that point.
I would say, like you put most to it. I think that the number of people that are listening to our podcast,
Yeah.
one, and lifting that much, there may be 2 people. In which case, hi, welcome. How you guys doing? But I just there's that group of the population is very, very small.
I agree. So let's first talk to most people that are listening to the podcast and talk about why upper body training is so important for a runner. Like, why would we even think about this? Because a lot of people think, I just need to train my legs. And it's interesting because there's a couple different groups of people. There's some people that I hear about that are runners that they tell me they only train their upper body because running gives them whatever they need for their legs. And so
Yes.
whenever they lift, they only do upper body. They never lift legs because they just get whatever they need for their legs with running. There was actually an article that I read a week or two ago about a lady who just set the Masters PR, I think, for the marathon. I forget her name. But she's in her 70s or maybe even her 80s. She might even be like in like early 80s. And that's like one of the things that she does. She only lifts upper body. And like for some people, like maybe if you're a freak of nature, then that could work for you. But today we're talking mostly about as many people as possible. We're going to generalize to most people. And then, so going back to what I was saying before, one camp says, I only lift arms, I never lift legs because then running does my legs. And then there's the other group of people that doesn't lift arms, that only does injury prevention stuff and wants to lift for their legs so that their legs are stronger for running. But we're here to try to find the middle ground because you need to be lifting for your upper body in order to improve your running. Like, yes, it's nice to have well-defined shoulders and look good in your tank tops. And it's also actually important for your running efficiency and economy to train your upper body as well.
And see, that's when those are the fancy words that pull me in. I don't
hmm
know how much our listening audience it pulls in, but as soon as you start talking running economy and you're like lifting on your upper body will improve your running economy, you perk my ears up. Because if you're running further or you just want to run the same distance but a little bit faster,
hmm
what you are looking to improve is running economy. And you can improve it by going out and running. But if you're telling me that I can also improve it by spending a little bit of time on lifting upper body, maybe that's a good choice.
hmm
Running economy, almost always where you're aiming for.
Okay. So why does training your upper body improve running economy, or how does it improve running economy? The simple answer is arm swing. So when you run, you swing your arms back and forth. You swing your legs back and forth and you swing your arms back and forth. And your arms and your legs swing in what's called a reciprocal pattern. So that means that when your right leg goes forward, your left arm goes forward to counterbalance it. When your left leg goes forward, your right arm goes forward in order to counterbalance it. This is called counter rotation of the body. So when your lower body rotates one way to swing your leg forward, the upper body swings the opposite or rotates the opposite way to keep the body in balance. And so when you have a strong and mobile upper body, that will help to produce an active and efficient arm swing rather than just like a passive or compensatory one, which is what we definitely don't want. Because we don't want, a lot of times, we often see is that people have too much arm swing and they're rotating too much in their upper body. That can also that can decrease the efficiency of the hip rotation in the lower body and lead to compensation patterns in the hips and the knees.
So that's the compensatory. That's if your arms are
hmm
swinging so much that it's
Yeah,
preventing your torso from turning correctly, which is then preventing it's screwing up your stride because
it
you're
screws up your stride. Exactly. So basically, because of the swings and the counter rotation, right? Because you're swinging your leg forward and you're swinging your opposite arm forward at the same time. That creates a rotation and a counter rotation in your trunk, so your upper torso and your hips. So there was a study in 2025. It's not like a high quality study yet. It's just a modeling study, but it was produced and it showed that running with your arms crossed and fixed to the chest. So a lot of women, especially men do this too, but I tend to see it more in women. They have their arms up higher. They're closer to their chest and they cross over. So if you're watching us on YouTube right now, you can see the video. Their arms cross over in front of their body instead of just staying next to their side. Does that make sense if you're hearing it?
yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. Okay. So when they found that when runners did it that way, when they ran with their arms crossed and fixed to the chest, that increased energy consumption by about 5% compared to just active arm swing. So there was other research that showed that even up to 8% of running economy was compromised when you ran with a poor arm swing.
Yeah, they've done numerous studies on this one. I think my favorite, the arms crossed across your chest and then locked in like you're in a straitjacket is a good
Mhm.
one. My favorite is there was one where they had their arms strapped down at their sides, so
Mhm.
they look like penguins
Yeah.
were trying to run. Um, and the weirdest thing though, if you try and run without allowing your arms to move, suddenly you start driving your shoulders. Like if you
Mm.
try and run with your arms down by your sides, you try and get something out of it. And so then you've got all this like excess shoulder movement just to try to balance that out your legs.
Yeah.
You need your arms. They're super, super helpful.
Mhm.
And when you start throwing things like 5% improvement in energy economy, in running economy, then you're looking at super shoes.
Yeah.
And you know me, I don't like to spend money on things. So if I can go do, well, you've got it, the 10 exercises I need to do and not drop $350 on a pair of super shoes that are only going to last me a month, like
Mhm.
this seems like a pretty valid trade-off.
Yeah, but the super shoes only typically are showing 2 to 4% of an improvement in running economy. So this could possibly be even more than that.
Yeah, it depends on the shoe.
Of
Some
course it
super
does.
shoes are
Well,
better than
and
others.
also, like, you know, if you look at these studies, like, no one's actually going to run with their arms fixed to their chest, like crossed over and fixed to their chest. No one's running that way. But it's just kind of starting to see, is there a difference between, you know, kind of a passive arm swing and an active arm swing? Um, and that changes a little bit when you talk about the speed of your running also, right? Because when we teach arm swing, and we're not really planning on, I wasn't planning on talking too much about arm swing in detail in this episode. But as a distance runner, as an endurance runner, arm swing does tend to be a little bit more passive versus when you're sprinting. When you're sprinting, you definitely want drive and arm swing because that's helping to propel you forward. But when you're out on like an easy run, you're not really driving your arms forward. It does tend to be a more passive activity. But the direction that your arms are going, whether or not they're swinging front to back or if they're swinging across your chest, does have an effect on the running economy and also the biomechanics and like what's happening in the lower body because your lower body is always trying to balance out your upper body and vice versa. Upper body's balancing lower body. They work in tandem with each other. And so when your shoulders, your lats, your triceps, when they are working together and they're working properly, your arms can just drive you forward versus, you know, if they're crossing over, then you're going to be getting more rotation in the hips as well. And we're going to be talking about like kind of those patterns a little bit later in the episode too.
Yeah, it all connects. I've seen plenty of runners who have like a weird flick with their foot as they run, and you fix their arm, and
Hmm.
the flick just naturally goes away
Right.
because they have to balance each other. But
Yeah.
that was pretty nice into the next idea where we're talking about how posture is connected under this thing.
Hmm.
Because when you screw up your running posture, the same as messing up running arms, if you start messing up your posture, which happens a lot as you
Hmm.
get farther, like the back third of your race
Yeah.
or particularly long runs, even if it's a long, easy run, your
Hmm.
posture just starts falling apart. And I think the world that we live in right now really encourages, for lack of a better term, crappy posture.
Yeah,
I think this work out.
I agree, and I think that that carries over into our running because we have to look at what does our daily life look like. If you are sedentary most of the time, if you're hunched over a desk, over a computer, driving tends to pull us forward like so many. If you just think about your day from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, how often are you forward flexed, right? How often are you more hunched over? You wake up and you go to the sink to wash your face and brush your teeth. That's a forward flex motion. You go to the kitchen to make your breakfast, to make your coffee, tends to be more forward flex versus extended and really pulling those shoulders back. If you're sitting at a desk, if you're driving, if you're cooking dinner, like all of these things, if you're sitting at dinner, we tend to live in a more forward flex position in our lives. And so we then have postural changes that are due to that constant forward flex positioning that we are going through in our life. And that can significantly compromise your running mechanics. So, rounded shoulders, that forward head position, thoracic stiffness. So, your thoracic spine is your mid back, your mid trunk. those things can all affect your arm swing efficiency and your breathing mechanics. And so that goes back to what you were saying with running posture, especially as you get fatigued, because you're trying to stand up straight, you're trying to keep everything upright. And as you get fatigued, we tend to go more into that rounded shoulder posture, that forward flexed type of posture, forward head that affects your breathing. And if you can't get enough oxygen in, that's going to also affect your endurance, your speed, etc. And then we can also get into musculoskeletal types of injuries as well, because you're putting more strain on the thoracic spine, the lumbar spine, your muscles are working harder, and all of that is affecting your running efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, my first thought as soon as you start caving in on posture is that
Hmm.
you're much more likely to get a side stitch
Yeah.
because you can't take a deep breath. But
Hmm.
you can't, like, if you're listening and wherever you are, it's safe to do it. If you excessively curl your shoulders forward in front of you and then try and take a deep breath, it's naturally going to open your shoulders back up because you can't take a giant deep breath with your shoulders all caved in. And if you can't breathe deeply, you're just more likely to get a side stitch because you can't breathe fully, and then you can't take a nice full stride either.
Hmm.
So there's a lot that goes in.
Right. And
Um,
so strength training in general, but whether it's upper body or lower body, strength training does help to improve running economy, especially as you fatigue, especially if you're doing high intensity types of exercises. So the faster you run, the more important this is. And that doesn't mean that, like, those of you that are running, 12-minute miles, 13-minute miles, it doesn't matter. It still matters for everybody, because if you can get stronger in your upper body, you can improve your running economy, which probably means you can go a little bit faster. So if you want to get faster, training your upper body might be one of those hidden things that you haven't really tapped into yet as well. But strength training in general is going to help improve all of those things. And that very much includes the upper body muscles that support posture and arm mechanics, because as you fatigue and you start to round out, like Kevin was just saying, and like if your shoulders come forward, it's going to be much harder for you to get that deep breath. And so it is going to be important for you to have those muscles in the back, the posterior chain, that are supporting your body and allowing you to stay more upright and avoid that forward flex position as you go.
all right. So everybody who listens and has been longtime listeners, we all know that you prefer to do calf raises as you brush your teeth.
Hmm.
But in general, brushing your teeth, because it's at a sink, is a forward-leaning thing. So is it possible that while we're doing our calf raises, that we should also be doing back bends as we brush our teeth? Would that be beneficial for our back?
I mean, as long as you don't dribble toothpaste down your chin like I tend to do. I always have to forward flex so I don't just drip all over myself.
But like this is the actual position that we need, is
Yeah.
things that like feel like we're almost leaning backwards.
Extension. Yeah, and that's why, some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, the exercises that we're going to be focusing on, really help to promote extension, to promote thoracic extension and strengthening the muscles in that position to kind of hold you there as well. But we have a couple more reasons why it's super important for you to work on your upper body that we've started to touch on a little bit before. The third one is reducing rotational stress on the spine and the SI joint. So like I mentioned before, when you run, your body is rotating, opposite arm, opposite leg go forward, and then you rotate the other way. So when arm swing and trunk rotation are efficient, the pelvis and the lumbar spine, your lower back, are protected from absorbing those compensatory forces. And so if you have weakness in thoracic rotation, if you tend to be more forward flexed, if your arms are swinging all over the place, more forces can go through your lower back. And that can be connected to back pain, to SI joint issues. And that's one of the reasons that these are more tend to be common in runners, which unfortunately you just experienced firsthand.
We did. So then this is like weakness in the upper body that shows up as pain in your lower back.
Right.
And
It's
like,
weakness and coordination issues as well, right? Because
well,
there's a coordination issue with the arm swing and where the arms are going.
yes, and we found, I mean, you've known for years that I don't exactly have the greatest of coordination. So a lot of being able to move appropriately, but part of that moving appropriately is getting into upper body strength training. That's the mobility comes from, but that's also just moving your body in various planes
Hmm.
in smooth, appropriate functional patterns
And controlled.
and controlled. Like
Yeah.
you can move in all sorts of different dimensions and you look smooth and graceful as you do it. I can also move, sort of. But no one is watching me do any of these exercises and thinking, yes, smooth and graceful. But
Mhm.
I'm working on it. And I think that it's that smooth, graceful ability to move in various directions that allows rotation from places that are supposed to rotate
Right.
and not rotating from places that are not supposed to rotate. This is all where the appropriate upper body strengthening comes in, is muscles doing what they're supposed to do and not covering for muscles that can't keep up their own, that can't pull their own weight,
Mhm.
literally, that are not pulling their own weight.
Right, because when that counterbalance fails, like if you have excessive arm swing in the upper body, you're getting more rotation in the hips is what should be happening. The hip and pelvis should also be trying to counterbalance that. But if you don't have proper mobility in that area, then that's just going through your lumbar spine, and that's adding a torsional rotational stress that shouldn't be happening there. And that's why a lot of people have lower back pain. That and just their muscles fatigue. That's the other big thing of why people often complain about soreness or stiffness in their lower back when they run or after they, especially on the long runs, is those muscles are just fatiguing. And so they're not supporting the body as well either.
I mean, you pointed out, like, our lifestyle is not designed to
Mhm.
really ever go through back extension.
Yeah.
Like, so many activities are forward leaning activities.
Mhm.
So if you want to highlight this, like, you have to go out of your way. When we start talking about the exercises, none of those are like, oh yeah, those are things that I are related to what I do in normal day. They're not. You
Mhm.
have to go put specific effort forth to make
Yeah.
sure that you're doing this.
Well, it's the same thing of like when you have a baby. You remember when you had a baby, you had to give them tummy time in order to help build the strength in their thoracic extensor muscles. Like, and you had to be very deliberate with that. You had to make sure they got a certain amount of tummy time per day so that those muscles would develop. And then, as adults, we just don't do tummy time enough.
Yes, so we need that's the push.
I mean,
Hashtag more tummy time.
It's not wrong though. Like if we spent more time on our stomachs, not sleeping on your stomachs, because that has a whole different thing that we're not talking about today. But spending time lying on your stomach is a very good idea because your body, we just don't do it enough.
So instead of standing desks, you're promoting that
Tummy
we have
time
tummy
desks.
time.
Hmm.
Like, if we could design a tummy time desk,
It's called a laptop on the floor.
that doesn't work for
No.
normal office. Like, there are offices that will redesign that have the adjustable desks and then people can stand up at work.
Yeah.
You've come up with some way that people can literally be laying on their stomach well in an office environment.
Hmm. That's our road to millions right there, Kev.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No one steal that. It's a good thing we didn't put that on the podcast.
No, but the problem with that is what's happening at the neck. Like if you were to actually work with your laptop on the ground and extend your neck all day long, like that would be there a lot of people would have neck pain from that.
Well, you have to go through different motions.
You'd
It's
have
not
to
that you
build
would,
it up, build up the
yeah,
tolerance.
but it's not that you would be like that all day long. You would
Right.
go from that and then you could stand and then you could sit.
Mhm.
You have to go through various motions. In office work, we just hang out in one position all day long.
Mhm. Yeah.
Little kids are in all sorts of positions. Babies
Mhm.
won't naturally go into tummy time, but like toddlers are in every position. That's why you don't hear toddlers complain about their lower back aching.
Mhm. I know, thank goodness for that. I dread the day that that's gonna start happening because it keeps happening younger and younger. Like, kids are having back pain, like, teenagers and kids are starting to have back pain, and for a long time, they tried to blame it on the backpacks, and I know that didn't help anything, but a big piece of this is just how sedentary our kids have gotten during the day too, because school used to be a lot more active, and they're getting rid of PE, and they're getting rid of, like, all these things, and they're just keeping kids in chairs. And so these sedentary lifestyles and the postural changes that we're seeing is starting as young as elementary school.
Yes, and then you just throw a screen in front of them.
Yeah, not a good thing. And then the fourth thing, which again we've already touched on, but the fourth reason that upper body training is so important for runners is to support breathing efficiency. So we already mentioned that when we are rounded, when our shoulders are rounded, when we're hunched forward, that tends to shut down the lungs and make it harder for you to take a deep breath. Weak or tight chest and shoulder muscles also restrict your rib cage from expanding. So yes, we have this forward posture, but we oftentimes, Kevin, like what you just said, you said, okay, now put your shoulders back and take a deep breath. You can take a much deeper breath, which is true. But there's a lot of people that have spent so much time in this rounded shoulders position that they actually have mobility restrictions, like their chest wall is restricted, their shoulders are restricted. So they can't even actually open up their chest because they're too tight in their chest musculature. And so when you're too tight there, that's going to prevent your rib cage from expanding fully. And it's also going to affect your diaphragm function. And your diaphragm is your main breathing muscles. Your muscle, one singular diaphragm. It's like the domed muscle underneath your lungs. And so when your rib cage is contracted and can't expand fully, then neither can your diaphragm. And when your diaphragm can't expand, then your lungs can't expand fully. And so then you're not getting as much oxygen down. And then it's really important for your lung health that you take really deep breaths so that you can get air into all the different pockets of your lungs, because most people don't actually use their full lungs. Most people breathe just through the top portion of their lungs and don't even utilize the full lung, which it has its own health consequences down the road. That's one thing as runners that we definitely have a leg up when it comes to us versus the general population, is because of running, we tend to use more of our lungs than just sedentary people in the general population.
Yeah, that's true. And if even as a runner, if you're shallow breathing, then just lay on your back from time to time and take some really deep breaths and see if you can get the chest to actually rise and fall. Like it
Yeah.
will improve your running. And that's not even strength training. I'm just telling you to lay on your back and take some deep breaths.
Yeah. Yeah. Laying on your back and taking deep breaths is a really good idea. And then another thing, which I did not include in the exercises for runners, because this is kind of more of a mobility type of activity versus like a strength training activity. One exercise that I like is to have people lie on a foam roller in parallel with their spine, like running up and down their spine. So a lot of people, when they lie on a foam roller, the foam roller is perpendicular to their body, right? It's going long ways across their back.
Yeah, their body and the foam roller make a T.
Yeah. But what I like to have people do is have them lie with their spine right along the foam roller, so that the spine and the foam roller are both going in the same direction, and just lying there and opening up the chest, putting your hands out to the side so that you get a really good stretch in the front of your chest, the front of your shoulder, and just taking deep breaths and spending a couple minutes in that position, taking deep breaths. That's really good for the spine. It's good for thoracic extension, to open up the chest, to open up the shoulders, and then also to help you take deeper breaths and actually get into the diaphragm.
And would you say if somebody is so tight through their upper chest that before you even get, like, if that's painful, that they should just start laying on their back and trying to deep breathe? Like, is
Yes.
that the prelim step?
Laying on your back with your hands by your side, and then you can bring the arms out to the side until your arms are more of like in a V position, in a T position. So changing the position of your hands while you're lying on your back is also going to change the position of your shoulder, which is then going to have an effect on your rib cage and diaphragm as well.
And then eventually lay on a foam roller.
And then
'Cause
eventually lay on a foam roller.
it is comfortable. And it really, it almost requires deep breathing.
Yeah. All right. So how often and how much should we be strength training? So it's
Excellent. Please, how much? Because
how much?
you know me. Can I
Yeah.
do it 2 days a week?
Yes, you can do it on 2 days a week. So 2 days per week would be
Mm-hmm.
the recommended. If you want to add a third day in, because it just, again, it always depends on your schedule. If you have enough time to devote to doing strength exercises twice per week, it tends to be that those exercise sessions are going to be a little bit longer, because you're going to have to do upper body and lower body in the same session. So if you have, it's always going to be what fits best. Because is it better for you to fit in 2 longer strength sessions or 3 shorter strength sessions into your week, right?
Okay, that's valid. I see the point of that. Like,
Okay.
if I'm working with 45 minutes and I need a third one rather than 2 hour long sessions.
Right, exactly. So it just kind of, that's like a real life thing. So it's less about exactly how many times per week, but how much, and are you hitting the right muscles enough during the week? Because the goal for us as runners is not bodybuilding, right? That's not what we're talking about here. If you're in a bodybuilding competition, you're also not trying to optimize your running. You have to choose which one you're optimizing. And so if the goal here is function and not mass, we're not trying to put on bulk as runners. We're just trying to have better upper body function, better running economy, and some cute shoulders in our tank tops, right? Then yes, we're
All
looking
about
at,
the cute shoulders.
I know, right? We're looking at 2 to 3 sessions per week as long as we're focusing on the right thing. As far as volume goes, you want to be doing probably 2 to 3 sets, I would say even more of depending on which muscles that we're working. So when you look at what the stimulus that's required to build muscle, that's not exactly what we're talking about here, because there is a certain stimulus that's required for you to build muscle. And depending on the study that you look at, we're looking at 10 sets, working that same muscle group 10 sets throughout the week. Okay. Not just in one session, but throughout the week. So a good example for this would be your glutes, right? If you're a runner, it's important for you to work your glutes. It's important for you to hit 10 sets of glute exercises throughout the week. But you're going to work your glutes through squats. You're going to work your glutes through step ups, through deadlifts. Like it's not that you have to do 10 sets of squats during the week because you hit that muscle group with multiple different types of exercises. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. When you
Okay.
said 10 sets, I just assumed if I'm squatting, I'm
No.
doing 10 sets of squat.
No.
How many am I putting into a set also?
Well, that's the thing, right? So, and that's what we're talking about here is it's important that you're taking your muscles close to fatigue. That's how you build strength. You build strength, you build muscle by taking the muscle close to fatigue. So I could sit here and tell you you should do 3 sets of 10 reps of this exercise, but that's not an accurate statement because some people, and it also depends on the load. Like if you're going to lift heavier, it's going to take you less repetitions to get to fatigue versus someone that has lighter weights. It's going to take more repetitions to get to fatigue. But ultimately, the goal is to get to fatigue, especially when we're doing postural type of endurance work, because we're trying to strengthen our upper back muscles, our spinal stabilizing muscles, our shoulders. Like a lot of this is for postural stability while running. And so the goal is not being able to lift as heavy as possible with those muscles. The goal is to have those muscles turn on and stay on to help stabilize the body, the upper body, the spine, etc., as you're running for an hour or 2 hours, however long you're out there.
Right. But then that also gets, and this goes back to like lifting in the 90s, where runners were like low weights and super high reps.
Mhm.
What I heard a podcast about this, I don't know, probably like a year ago, that they pointed out how this was such a silly idea
Yeah.
of that they would have runners that were doing like 50 reps in a
Mhm.
set.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, that's a lot, but if you translate that into running, 50 steps does not get you very far. So
Exactly.
if you're like, oh, you have to do at least 50 because you're building endurance, you still did that in like a minute and a half. So when you go out for an hour-long run, your minute and a half lifting did not build comparable endurance. So
Exactly.
you're still looking to take your body to fatigue. If you
Mhm.
add more weight onto it, you can get to the fatigue. Other way, to me, lifting super low weights with ridiculously high reps, it just kind of seems like a time waster.
Exactly. And that's really the big thing here. So how do you figure out what to do? Is based on number one, can you maintain proper form? Because a lot of times when people try to increase the weights on things, they tend to compensate with other muscles and they don't isolate the muscles that they're trying to work as well. So this happened to me the other day. I was doing tricep work, and so I was doing an overhead tricep press. So I grabbed a 35-pound dumbbell to do the overhead tricep press. And as soon as I did that first one, I could feel my shoulder kicking in and compensating. So I was like, okay, that's not what I want to happen. I'm trying to isolate my triceps here. Obviously, my shoulders, my back muscles, it's a standing tricep press. So all of them are turning on and working while I'm doing this tricep press, but I want to still make sure that I'm doing the exercise properly. So I dropped the weight down. I grabbed the 30-pound dumbbell instead. Then I did it and I slowed it down so that my muscles had to work harder. So when you do an exercise more slowly, your muscle has to work harder. More muscle fibers get recruited. And so I used a lower weight, but I performed each repetition more slowly, and I was still fatiguing by like 10 to 12 reps, and my shoulders were staying down and I was staying in better form. And so that's really the key, is like finding the weight that you feels challenging so that when you get to, 8 to 12 reps, it feels like, okay, like it's going to be challenging or my form is going to start to break down, because once your form starts to break down, then you're done.
Yeah, I mean, I literally was standing 10 feet away from you as you did this. Um, but it's possible at this point that you were getting a better tricep work at 30 pounds
Hmm.
than you were at 35. Because
Exactly.
once you start using other muscles to compensate,
Right.
you're like, look how many other muscles I can use. And you're like, you're barely even tapping into your tricep at that point. Like your tricep was still doing something,
Mhm.
but it was performing such little of the activity. If you put it to 30, now you can focus, you can really like concentrate on, I want my tricep to be pulling this weight up and over my head.
Mhm.
And then the muscle that you want is doing something. That's what I think as we go through the exercises that you've got here, it's important that people understand, not just it. I like to know what the point of it is. And some of them I can just, as I do the thing, I'm like, oh yeah, it makes sense that I would do this. This would help my running.
Mhm.
But I love your cueing because it's like, you should be feeling this here. Well, I'm not feeling it there. Oh, well, then you're doing something completely wrong because you're using muscles that you're not supposed to be using for this.
Mhm. Yeah, so instead of thinking about, how many sets and how many reps exactly that you need to do, the goal is to really think about overall load. You wanna choose a moderate load that is going to challenge you in those final 2 to 3 reps without compromising form. So that's really how you choose, and I could tell you, "Oh, you should lift heavier," this and that. Everybody's got different equipment, right? You can get a heck of a good upper body workout using resistance bands as long as you are maintaining good form and getting your body to the point where those last couple of reps are challenging, are tough to maintain that good form. And to your point also, yeah, you could do lighter weights and then you'd have to do 50 reps. Like that just sounds super time consuming. And the other thing that you want to keep in mind is that with heavier loads, we are also helping not only to help build muscle, but we are increasing the durability and the resilience of our ligaments, our tendons, our fascia, our tissues. Like so, it's not just the muscles that we're focusing on. Everything also, like all of our supporting muscular, all of the supporting tissues, soft tissues, are also getting a benefit as we increase the load on the muscles.
As we start increasing soft muscle, uh,
Soft tissue.
soft tissue, do we ever get to actual like increasing bone density off of any of this, or is that
Yes.
yes?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the heavier the load, the more bone density improvements you see as well, because strength training is one of the most, um, important and effective ways that we can improve our bone density. So,
Uh,
yes, because
because
you're pulling essentially when you okay, so a muscle attaches to the bone with a tendon, right? So the tendon is the attachment that, between the muscle belly and the bone itself, and
people
so
remember that because bone starts with B and tendon starts with T. No,
okay.
it's not helpful at all. I've never been able to remember which one's which. I
Well,
know there are tendons and ligaments, and I never
ligaments con
remember.
so ligaments connect bone to bone, and tendons connect muscle to bone.
Yeah, I know. I just can never remember.
Okay. So when we are pulling, like when you have a heavier weight, then the pull on the muscle is greater, right? Because the muscle's working harder, so the tendon is pulling harder on the bone. Does that make
Uh-huh.
sense?
Yep.
Okay. So that's how it helps to improve. There's a whole bone remodeling process that you are helping to promote because it's an increased force on the bone.
Yeah, no, sign me up for bone remodeling process,
Yeah.
especially anything along my spine and like down into my pelvis. To me, anything that I can do that strengthens all the bones along spine and pelvis area
Yeah.
suggests that I'm going to be able to run for decades longer.
Exactly. And so upper body training is not only just helping your shoulder joints, but it's also helping your thoracic spine, like you just mentioned, your shoulders, your wrists, like your grip strength, and your wrist strength, especially as women. That's very important for us as well when it comes to bone density, because if you do fall, like, and we all know as runners, like, I mean, I've fallen before as a runner. Most runners, I think, can experience falls. It's kind of one of the risks that we take when we're out there on the roads. You don't like your first inclination is to put your hands out, right? And so you have to have strong wrists to help protect you. God forbid you do take a little tumble, because that's one of the first things that's your first line of defense.
Yeah, yeah, you're going to stop yourself. You're going to scuff up your hands, but it's way better to
Hmm.
do that and not smash your face into the ground.
Yeah.
But you go and brace yourself if you're brittle over there, suddenly you have a broken wrist, a broken forearm.
Hmm.
So yeah, upper body strength. Okay, all right, you're starting to sell me on it.
All right, I'm sorry. Okay, so do you have any other questions before we get into some of my favorite exercises?
No,
My,
this is where I really am bringing the questions. I
all
am
right,
excited for your list because it's quite the list.
quite the list. So the way that I kind of categorize really all exercises in my head, but especially upper body exercises, are push exercises versus pull exercises. Okay, so is it a pulling type of motion or is it a pushing type of motion? So that's how I like to kind of categorize them in our heads, in my head. And I want to have both incorporated in all of my full body exercise programs. And so one of the ways that when I program a workout, I make sure that I include a squat pattern that's giving us vertical force. I include a hinge pattern that's giving us forward and backward force in our lower body. I always include a push exercise with the upper body and a pull exercise with the upper body. And then we put in some rotational exercises and core and accessory types of things, injury prevention of things. But push exercises and pull exercises are the two main upper body categories that I always program into all of my strength circuits.
Yeah, you would push, pull, hinge, squat,
All sorts
twist.
of fun stuff.
And suddenly you started adding a lot of things to the list. And as soon as the lifting list starts getting long, you get me a little nervous.
I
So
know.
let's start going through and seeing
All right.
seeing what I need to lift.
All right. So one of my favorite pull exercises for upper body is the bent over row or the dumbbell row. Okay. Now you can do rows in lots of different ways, but one of the most important ways, so if you think about running, right, your elbows are going back and forward, back and forward. And if you think about a row, what's happening? We're pulling back, pulling that elbow back, and then releasing it forward, right? So your lats and your mid back muscles are some of your primary drivers for arm swings. And so your lats are also, and your upper body, scapular muscles are also very important for postural, keeping you upright during running. So a bent over row or any type of row, but the bent over row tends to be one of the go-tos that I go with. You can do a row machine instead. I like to often do a one-arm row with a cable machine. So there's different ways that you can do it, but having a row built in is important.
One arm row with a cable machine seems like that's helping you prevent the twisting also. So you're kind of getting some bonus off of that one.
You
Is
can.
the bent over row just an easy one to go with because you can do it with a dumbbell?
You can do it with
A
a dumbbell.
lot of other
And
things require like a rowing machine.
yeah, and then the other reason when you do a bent over row, your other hand is on the surface, whether it's a bench or a chair or the couch, whatever it is so you're stabilizing one side of the body while you're moving the other side of the body. So there's less compensation that can happen versus other types of rows.
Okay, sounds good. I'm on board. I do a row, and that's
Okay.
actually the type of row that I do. So I'm good. I'm
So
good with this one.
So when you do a row, the key is that you're focusing on keeping your spine neutral and driving the elbow back. So you're not just lifting the weight, you're really focusing on driving that elbow back. And this is really important for, again, powering that efficient arm swing.
So this is like starting up an old school lawnmower. Like
Mhm.
you really want to be pulling up quickly and then
Mhm.
bringing the weight back down slower and smoother.
Slower and smoother. Yeah. Because when you're running, you're going to swing that arm back, but you also need to be able to control it on its way forward.
Okay, so all right, given the whole idea that it has to stay in a neutral spine as you do this, you should probably check me next time I do a row because in all likelihood, my back is curved.
All right. Exercise number 2 is a push-up, which I'm going to admit, I don't love push-ups. I'm not a big fan. You can also, I much prefer like a bench press here because that would be the same type of motion. It's a pushing motion. So the row is a pull. This is a push. And we're really working on our chest muscles. We're working on being able to brace the core's ability, really maintaining that rigid plank if you're doing the push-up. If you're doing a bench press, it's a little different because your back is on the bench versus you having to actually stabilize. But with a push-up, you're getting the chest, the shoulders, the triceps are all pushing the ground away from you as your body and as your core is maintaining that rigid plank position under load.
I am not a huge fan of push-ups.
Me neither.
I'm not a big fan of prescribing them to our cross country kids
Okay.
because there's a lot of kids who can't do
Yeah.
proper, like, where it's a full push up, just your toes are on the ground, your hands are on the ground. And so then they go down to a knee. And I don't have an issue with knee push ups,
I don't
but
either.
I would say that almost everybody does knee push ups wrong.
Yes, I agree.
And there's where it's like, I would rather that I think it's easier to not screw the form up if you do a bench press or a chest press than if you're like, I can't do a full push up, I'm going to go on my knees. Almost everybody goes with a super swayed back, and then I don't like the exercise at all.
Yeah, yeah, or they stick their butt up in the air and it's not a good thing. So there's a
Yes, butt
couple
way up in the air.
another way that you can progress this exercise. So if you don't have access to a bench, a barbell or dumbbells that are heavy enough to get a good bench press in, and if you want to go with push-ups, I would say starting with wall push-ups is a really great way to start, especially if you have any type of shoulder issue. So your hands are on a wall and your body is straight, and you make like a 45 angle degree to the wall. Does that make sense, Kevin? Like
Yeah, you're
kind
a
of lean into
lean-to.
the wall. You're what?
You're a lean-to.
You're a lean-to. So hands are on the wall and you're just pushing the wall away from you. I think that's a really important cue too. I think that's one of the things that people don't do right with push-ups. When they push up, they're thinking about pushing themselves up, and I like to often think about pushing the ground away from you. I
Like
think
you're
that
Chuck Norris.
why Chuck Norris is
That was one of the Chuck Norris lines. Is
was
Chuck
it?
Norris doesn't push himself up, he pushes the world away.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, think of Chuck Norris when you do push-ups. So again, this is core stability under load, it's shoulder strength, it's postural endurance, but you can progress from wall push-ups to chair push-ups, because then if if the wall push-ups become too easy, then you could put your hands on a chair so you're still up, and still more of at an angle. And then you can kind of make your way down to the floor. You can put your knees down if you want to, as long as you're maintaining proper. The key with knee push-ups is just that you're maintaining that straight back position and you're not letting your butt go out, or your lower back cave in.
I would much rather prescribe chair push-ups
Mm-hmm.
than prescribing knee push-ups. I think that is brilliant.
Yeah, or bench push-ups.
Yeah, that's excellent. All right, what's next?
Face pulls. So
That sounds painful.
yeah, face pulls is an interesting one. So this is really good exercise for people that have rounded shoulders and a forward head, because the face pull, basically what you're doing is you're taking, usually I do this with a resistance band or a cable machine, and you're pulling the weight up towards your face. And so it's really forcing you to get your shoulders in a back position and to get your head back as well, because you're pulling towards your face. You can do it with a resistance band this way as well. But that's
full resistance band in front of you, like in front of your mouth, and then stretch it out and essentially turn the resistance.
pull it towards your face. Yeah, this is
So the resistance
that's
band becomes a
a mustache.
no. Yes, a
Mask?
mustache. Yes,
A face
mustache.
mask.
Yes.
I don't know what you're going with for there. But yeah, so the face pull is going to help target your rear deltoids, your external rotators, those muscles of the back of your shoulder. That's going to help promote a more upright posture.
All right. Can you get your shoulders too high? Is that going to be an issue?
Yeah, you don't want to be pushing your shoulders up towards your ears. That's one of the main problems that I see with people. But you're getting it up here. And then if you pull from the ground, like if you have a cable machine and you put it and you're pulling up from the ground, the key is that you're coming up towards your face and not like towards your stomach.
Oh, that's good. I like that one. Yeah, coming up from the ground and then lifting while focusing on not pinching your shoulders up into your ears.
Yeah, and keeping your elbows high. The main thing that you have to be careful is, any sort of shoulder pinching or shoulder impingement, because people do tend to kind of push their shoulders up to their ears. We want to keep the shoulders down and back and really focus on the upper back muscles as doing the pulling.
Yeah, I see this as one that your ego could get in the way of doing it right, that you're going to end up trying to do too much weight, and then you're just going to squeeze your shoulders up really high to lift the weights as opposed to doing what you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
I know this one does not sound good, but it sounds like I might need to do this one.
It's a good one. It's
Why
going to
not?
be, I think it's going to be in our next strength cycle. So stay tuned. If you remember, that's going to be in our next 6-week strength cycle.
All right, face pulling. Okay, good. What do
All
we
right.
got next?
Number 4 is either a lat pull down or a pull up. Okay. So pull ups tend to be hard for most people, I would say. I know that's a big statement to make, but I think a pull up is a tough exercise. And so you could do a lat pull down instead. You could do that with a cable machine if you have access to a gym, or you can do this with a resistance band in your home, like with a door anchor as well. You can be doing lat pull down. So the main focus here is your latissimus dorsi, which is like 2 big flat muscles on your back. They're the pulling muscles of the arm. And so this is really helpful with arm swing, getting your arm to pull back. And it's also good for postural stability and strength.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm okay with this one. I liked when I had the ability to do pull-ups, and I don't think that that's that crazy of a blanket statement.
Yeah.
I was checking before we hit record on, and when I was searching to the thing of the elite marathoners that can't
Mhm.
run, can't do a
Yeah.
pull-up, and obviously this is just a thing that popped up through social media. But someone suggested that 70% of adult men can't do a single pull-up.
70%.
Yeah,
Yeah. Interesting.
which
So I think
sounds
that
right though.
the number is probably smaller for women. Well, 70%, larger for women. Like more women can't do a pull up because I think that in general, men tend to be stronger in the upper body than women.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not just it's a strength, but it's the
Yeah.
strength to weight thing. Like if you're
Yeah.
talking a pull up, then you have to lift your whole body weight,
Mhm.
and the average American can probably not
Yeah.
support their body weight.
Yeah, I can't do a pull up. I'll go ahead and admit it, and be vulnerable here. If I can do pull ups if my elbow is slightly bent, like I just like from a dead hang, I don't have the ability right now to do a pull up. That's another thing that I'm working on this year. In addition to my 200-pound deadlift, is working on doing like a full pull up from a dead hang. But like I can get it like as soon as if my elbows are like slightly bent, I can do a full pull up. But yeah, not from the dead hang yet. So that's something I'm working on.
I don't know. The most pull-ups I could ever do was right when we met because our beds were lofted in the dorm room, and so
Mhm.
my roommate and I would just do pull-ups off of our beds periodically.
Even
Just
when we
out of
did that P90X cycle, you did a bunch of pull-ups then.
oh yeah, maybe then I was actually kind of strong then.
Yeah, you were. You still are. All right, moving. Any other questions on that one?
No, but I appreciate that pity little cast-off comment there. That was nice.
You still are.
Uh-huh.
All right, number 5 is an overhead press. So usually for this one, dumbbells, you can do a barbell overhead press, but most people have access to dumbbells. So the reason I like dumbbells for this one is that way you're isolating each arm separately. And so one arm can't kick in and do more work. Like if you were using a barbell, you can, I mean, that's kind of the same thing, dumbbells versus barbells, no matter what exercise it is, but especially when with overhead press, this is an important exercise. So for this one, you're just holding 2 dumbbells in your hand and you're pressing them up over your head. That would be the overhead press. And this is really working on shoulder strength and stability. It's really, really important for shoulder strength and stability. And then also just everyday life. Like if you think about just putting dishes up in the cabinet, like this is a very functional exercise for everyday life as well.
All right. So is there any difference of like, do my hands face forward? Do my hands face in? Like, is there
Mhm.
anything to this, or like that's all so nuanced that it's more important that runners are doing some form of overhead press?
Yes, I agree. With that statement, like shoulder overhead press is important regardless of where your hand positions are. But yes, there is a difference based on if your palms are facing forward, if your palms are facing each other. You can even do them with your palms facing backwards and then twisting them out. That would be like more of an Arnold press. And yes, you kind of hit muscles a little bit differently, but here we're really focusing on our deltoids. We're working on our external rotators. But the key with overhead press, because this does have a tendency to get some pinching in the shoulder because a lot of people are weak here. So start with a lower weight. Make sure that you can perform it. Do it while you're watching yourself in the mirror, if possible, because you want to watch and make sure that when you're pressing up overhead, your shoulders, the tops of your shoulders are not coming up towards your ears. You want to keep your shoulders down and pressing up so that there's still a space maintained between your ear and the top of your shoulder. If you can maintain that, then you can go up in weight, no problem. But as soon as you go up in weight and you notice that you're losing that space, it's time to, work there for a while.
Okay, that makes sense. Maybe so in terms of palms facing forward or in, this might also affect with like which one doesn't pinch your shoulders. But
Yeah.
you could also just you could vary it just for variety too, as a runner. Like 'cause we're not bodybuilding, and there's clear differences in the different things, but if we're looking for general shoulder stability, we're gonna do the one that honestly we're gonna default to the one that's the easiest and doesn't pinch our shoulders.
Yeah, and that's what I would recommend is making sure that you find a position that your shoulders don't have that pinch. So for most people, it's going to be palms facing forward or slightly turned in towards each other, so slightly because even having them at a slight angle. And the other thing is you don't. A lot of the big mistake people make is thinking that they need their elbows to be parallel with their body and pushing straight up, but that tends to put your shoulder in a more compromising position. So I tend to bring the elbows forward. Like if you drew a line from your body, that I call that the plane of the body, bring your shoulders and your elbows slightly forward in front of the plane of the body, and then push up, and that can be a lot more comfortable.
Oh my word, that's drastically nicer on my shoulders.
Yeah,
Like,
they don't have to be all the way out here. Just bring your elbows forward a little bit more, and pressing up is going to keep them
I mean,
slight.
just that slight difference in angle is huge. People really should watch our YouTube video.
Yeah. So if you guys, if you are questioning this while you're listening on the podcast, go check out the YouTube video and you can see how we're doing it because we're demonstrating as we're recording.
It's hard to talk about them and not.
All right. Any questions on that one?
No, I'm great.
Okay. So number 6 would be a tricep exercise. So tricep extension. There's a couple different ways that you can do this. My favorite way to do a tricep extension would be something like what's called a skull crusher, where you're lying down on your back. You lie down your back and your arms are extended straight up toward the ceiling. Okay.
Okay.
Then you keep your elbows pointing toward the ceiling and you just bend your arm at your elbow. So your upper arm is staying perpendicular to the ground. And then your lower arm that's holding the weight, your lower arm is between your elbow and your wrist, that is bending and coming down towards your head, and then you straighten the elbow back up towards the ceiling.
This is one of my least favorite tricep extensions.
Oh, why?
It's called skull crusher.
I know, but it helps to keep your shoulder in a better position. It helps to isolate your triceps, and you're working against gravity. So when you look at the world of tricep exercises, that's one of the most effective ones that you can do that has the least pinching on the shoulder and has the least risk for injury.
Okay. So when I do that one, like, I've done that one before. That is not in my current repertoire, but I've done that one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't put both hands up. I only put weight in one hand.
Yeah.
And then I use my other hand and hold the elbow
Love it.
so that it doesn't, otherwise I literally feel like as it's named, I feel like I'm going to drop the weight on my forehead.
Mm-hmm. That's fine.
So I keep my hand just kind of, to me, it stabilizes
Yep.
the elbow and keeps that from crashing in over my face.
I love it. And that's a safe way to do it. And that way, if for some reason you get to those last couple of reps where it is hard, you have your other hand there to help protect yourself because you don't want to obviously crush your skull.
Okay. All right,
Okay.
good.
Another
So
way
I'm,
that you
so I'm
can.
not cheating by having my hand on the elbow.
No, I like it.
Okay.
So there are other ways that you can work your triceps. You could do an overhead press where you hold the dumbbell above your head and then you just bend your elbows and as you press the weight up and down. There's triceps dips, which a lot of people like. I don't love a tricep dip because I think it puts the shoulder in a compromising position. I think a lot of people get the shoulder part wrong.
Yeah, I
And you
used to
can
do
get
that
a
in
lot
high
of
school.
pinching.
I liked it.
I don't
I
love
liked it, but it hurt my shoulders.
Yeah. So I don't love the tricep dip. The other one that people do is the tricep kickback. And the tricep kickback is okay. It's just not when you look at the physics and the torque of the efficiency of working that muscle, it's just not the most effective. You could also do a tricep push down if you have access to a cable at the gym, or you could use resistance bands as well. If you have like a door anchor and just doing a tricep push down, if you were doing a tricep push down, you would be locking those elbows next to your body and then just bending the forearm up and down and focusing on really squeezing the muscle in the back of your arm, which is your triceps. You're going to probably need more weight with that one, because with that one, you're working with gravity instead of against it, which is why I like the skull crusher better than that one. But that's also a really great exercise, especially if you have any type of shoulder pain or just access to certain equipment.
That's why I like that one, because I don't hurt my shoulder doing it.
Yeah.
But you're right. I cheat on it. If I'm not feeling it that day, but my ego gets in the way, I let my elbows not tuck tight into my body.
Yeah.
And then I can use a whole heck of a lot of muscles that are not my tricep to
Yeah.
start the motion. And then I use triceps to continue the momentum.
Right. And then think about the position that you go into in order to get more weight.
Mm.
You tend to round your shoulders forward, right? And like push your body forward to try to like kind of push your body to compensate versus pulling your shoulders back.
No, I curve my back.
You curve your back the other way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is also bad.
There we go. All right. Number 7 is the Pallof press.
I've never even heard of this one.
Yeah, this is a good one. I know Kevin came up to me before we recorded and it was like, what is this one? So for this one, it's essentially an anti-rotation exercise. And what you do is you stand next to, okay, so you're going to use a resistance band or a cable with this one. And you stand, okay, so if your resistance band was anchored on, like, say the same level as like a doorknob, right? That's
Yep.
kind of because you want the resistance band is going to be around belly button height. So you anchor, so say you're facing the doorknob and then you just turn 90 degrees away from the door. Does this make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So you're turned 90 degrees away. So the resistance band is coming into you from the side. So if the resistance band was to pull, it would rotate you towards the door. So it's your goal to keep it directly in front of your belly button and then press the band or the handle away from your body and then pull it back in without letting your body rotate. So the goal is complete like core stabilization and stability without letting your body rotate. So you're holding the handle of the resistance band with both hands and you're pressing it away from your belly button and then pulling it back in. I'll put up an exercise demonstration like on YouTube or something to demonstrate the proper form. Or of course you can always Google it because there's plenty of other people out there that have demonstrations for it. It's called a Pallof press.
Yeah, which is this spelled right? Pallof?
Yes.
It's probably named after somebody.
Yeah.
Dr. Pallof.
I mean, I hope it's a doctor, but who knows?
So I'm sure if it's not, it is now.
Yeah.
I give him an honorary doctor.
And so the whole goal here is your core is fighting to not rotate. So
This is the weird one because
Mhm.
you're not moving against the resistance band. The resistance band, if the resistance band is like if the door is to your left, the
Mhm.
resistance band wants to pull your hands to the left.
Yeah.
But you're just moving your hands forward and backwards.
Right.
You're not moving them to the right. You're not moving them to the left and then
Yeah.
swing back in front of you. You're just going from your belly button straight out and back as everything about the resistance band tries to make you twist and turn to the left.
Mhm.
That's an interesting one.
You got it.
I have
It's
never done
super-
this.
It's super effective. It's a great rehab exercise. Any sort of lower back pain, hip pain, it's a great exercise. All right,
Have
number
we not
8.
done this as part of my rehab because I'm not ready for it yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
You will be. All right, number 8, band pull aparts. Okay, so this is a super simple, low load type of exercise. I had my mom do this one this morning. It's great for scapular stability, in your rear deltoids, the posterior deltoid muscles, which help to keep your shoulder blades down and back and your chest open during running. So all you do here is you hold a resistance band at chest height. The closer your hands are, the harder it is. The further apart your hands are on the band, the easier it's going to be. So you just hold that resistance band straight out in front of you with your palms facing down and you just pull it apart. And as you pull your arms apart and you pull the resistance band, you stretch the resistance band, you're really thinking about squeezing your upper back muscles, like you're squeezing your shoulder blades together, pulling back like I was telling my mom this morning, I'm like, the goal is not to pull with your arms, the goal is to pull with your back.
Yeah, no, I'm on board with this one. This one does not need a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Anytime you tell me
This is
squeeze my shoulder blades, that's good cueing to
Yeah.
me.
Well, and this is a really great warm-up exercise as well. Like, so some of these things don't need to be added into your quote unquote strength training portion. This is a great mobility and warm-up exercise just to kind of get the muscles firing before you do some of the heavier stuff.
Yeah, but if you've been avoiding upper body strength, this is a full-blown exercise also.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Number 9 is the dead bug with the arm reach. Okay. So this is a lot of coordination. So this is helping to train your arms and your legs to move. It's a big coordination exercise. It's a really good exercise for your brain and that neuromuscular connection.
So
So,
right before you do it, you should rub your stomach and pat your head, and then
and
dead
do
bug.
it. Yeah. So basically, what you're doing is you lie on your back and your hands are straight up pointing towards the ceiling. Your knees are bent, and then you extend one arm back over your head, and then you extend the opposite leg at the same time, and then you pull them back to center. You extend one arm in the opposite leg, and then you pull them back to center.
Okay, so it's called dead bug. Your feet are off the ground the entire time, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because when you say
That's the ideally, yes, but if you have a hard time maintaining spinal stability, you can keep your feet on the ground, like if you're feeling a lot of strain in the lower back. Because the whole goal for this exercise is spine stability while the legs and the arms are moving in that coordinated, like contralateral pattern.
okay. But you could go into like a classic sit-up position where you're on the ground and your knees are bent and your feet are actually on the ground.
Well, I would start people off doing that with just the arms first. And
Okay.
then, yeah, and then you could add opposite arm, opposite leg while the knees are bent and the feet were on the ground, and you just pull them together. And then you would lift the legs. Cause like doing it with legs lifted and arms lifted, opposite arm, opposite leg at the same time is the most advanced part of the exercise. So there's lots of ways that you can kind of pull it back from there. One of the first ways I would pull it back would be arms are up, legs are up, and the legs don't move. The legs just stay in place as you move just the arms. So you get just the arm piece in. Then I would do just the legs. So then the arms don't move. And then I would work on just one leg out, other leg out, just alternating legs out so that you're learning the spine stability with just one, either your upper body moving or your lower body moving. And then I would try to add them together. And if that was too much, then yes, you could put your feet down on the ground and then just lift the foot off the ground and then put it back down on the ground to give your back that that rest it needs in between.
I like the idea of having my hands up and just doing the legs without having to work the coordination. I feel
Yeah.
like that might be where I currently live.
Yeah. We'll try it. We'll see. We'll film it.
Excellent.
We'll film it and put it up on social media maybe.
Great.
All right. Number 10 is the farmer's carry. So farmer's carry is either holding a dumbbells or kettlebells at your side. You can hold weight plates if you've got that. And you literally just hold them next to your body and you walk as if you were, it's called a farmer's carry because farmers are always carrying like buckets or various things in their hand and walking from place to place. So this is fantastic for grip strength, shoulder stability, thoracic posture, and your core bracing with a load attached to it. So like you have to stay like and then you work your load up, you work up to being able to carry heavier weights.
Okay, when you first start this,
Yeah.
are you like, what are you going to screw up? Like you're screw your posture up, you're going to naturally shrug your shoulders up. Like
Yeah, I think
something's
I think shoulder shrugging tends to be one of the first things people do is that they stiffen up the upper body. So the goal is to keep your shoulders down and away from your ears. The other second thing that I think people would probably do would be to arch their back.
yeah.
So that would be another thing. So you want to keep your core braced. You want to try to maintain a neutral spine. The other thing they do is stay very stiff, and it's okay if like your arms swing a little bit. The goal is not to be completely stiff in the upper body, but it's really getting that postural endurance under load.
Yeah, because I think two or three football coaches away, the football team used to do this,
Yeah.
and I was watching a lot of what looked like they were going to hurt
Mhm.
themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, so again, it's one of those things where you do the heaviest weight that you can while still maintaining good form and avoiding muscle compensation patterns.
I mean, I think that is the takeaway from all of these is
Yeah.
the heaviest weight that you can without screwing form up. And that is such
Mhm.
an ego thing of like, no, 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 I should be able to do more than 5 pounds in a hand. It's like, well,
Mhm.
okay, maybe, but you can't. So that's
Yeah.
what you're going to do today.
Yep, exactly. So if 10 feels like too much, okay, so that's all 10 of them. If 10 feels like too much, you start with 3, okay? You start with a pull, a push, and a stabilization exercise, okay? So the ones that I would choose would be the bent over row because that very much directly mimics like the arm swing motion in running. So you would do a bent over row, a push up, or if you can't do the push ups yet, you could do the overhead press, and then the Pallof press because you want to start working that thoracic extension and anti rotation
With a push, pull, and an anti-twist.
and anti twist.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would be a great place to start. But like thinking of them that way of push, pull, and like going back and thinking of this or, going through the list of exercises. Okay, is that a push exercise or is that a pull exercise? And making sure you have at least one of each in your daily strength sessions or, strength sessions like 2 to 3 times per week is very important.
So because I want to press on when I'm doing one, I want to pull when I'm doing one. If I'm doing a press on my Tuesday lift and I do a different press on my Thursday lift,
Mm-hmm.
this still counts towards the I want a certain number of sets of pressing during the week, even though they're not exactly the same thing.
Right, throughout the week. And then you're also looking at like what muscles am I working on, right? Because it's going to work, your pecs are a push muscle, your deltoids, your shoulders are a push muscle, right? So it's like which muscles am I specifically working on too? But that starts to get into more complicated than it needs to be because we're not bodybuilders. We're not working on um defining every single individual muscle, right? We want to do enough so that we can improve our running economy. We can run faster. We don't have back pain and we have good shoulders because that's important too. Like a lot of these upper body exercises are going to be really good for your shoulders. Oh, actually, I forgot my bonus exercise because I did want to put one more bonus exercise in here.
Oh, God.
Shoulder external rotation for rotator cuff stability. So there's a couple ways that you can do this. You can do this with a dumbbell. You can do it with a dumbbell lying on your side where your elbow stays pressed into your side and you're just rotating that weight. Like your elbow is bent to 90 degrees, elbow stays pressed into the side if you're lying on your side. And then you rotate the weight up toward the ceiling and then back down. Okay. You can also do it with a resistance band with your elbows locked into the side of your body, holding the resistance band with your palms facing up and then pulling apart. Yep, exactly. Thank you,
Oh, man.
Kevin. That's a good one, right? And then you could also do it with a dumbbell propped up onto your knee, or you could do it like with your arm against the wall and doing it this way. Okay. But ultimately, we want to do that shoulder external rotation because it helps to increase the strength of the rotator cuff. And the rotator cuff is very important for shoulder stability with a lot of these other exercises. So if you have a lot of pinching or pain in your shoulder, you definitely want to be doing external rotation and rotator cuff strengthening. It's just going to be a really good idea, no matter who you are, what you're doing. For shoulder, to help avoid shoulder pain, it helps with neck pain. Rotator cuff strengthening is very important.
So you put that one almost as a required fourth one,
Yes.
especially if as you're going through and trying to do some of these 10 ones, almost every exercise you feel a pinch in your shoulder.
Yep. I would do this one at least once a week.
Okay.
But you could even put it in there a little bit more as part of your warm-up exercises, right? Like as part of your mobility and your warm-up before your strength session, doing some shoulder external rotation would be a great thing.
Yeah, because I can't imagine that you're lifting very much with that. It's
Right.
really
Oh yeah,
mobility.
no. Yeah, no, you should not be lifting heavy weights. You're like your rotator cuff muscles are very, very small muscles. We're not looking to increase the weight significantly on those.
Sounds good.
All right. You have any other questions?
It just seems like a lot of exercises, but I guess
Well,
if
10 is a lot, and you're not doing all of those every single day.
yeah, and if I split it into pushes and pulls
Mm-hmm.
and twists,
Mm-hmm.
and I make sure that I mean, you can kind of divide the list into like 3.
Yeah.
So
And it's only
to-
like 3 exercises each.
and then you can do 3 shorter lifting sessions.
Right.
Or you can do 2 lifting sessions, and then that last day you're like, I only have to do 3 exercises.
Or you can just join the team, our membership program, and we'll program all of your strength training for you.
That's also true.
There you go. All right, you guys, if you have any questions, please reach out. Leave us a comment on Spotify, on social media. Reach out, tell us what you liked. What questions do you have? We are here to help guide you. And if you do want programming, if you don't want to have to try to figure this all out yourself and you want video demonstrations of all the exercises, a fresh set of exercises every 6 weeks that you can follow, check it out over at realliferunners.com/team, because this is what we'll do inside the membership. And as always, thanks for joining us. This has been the Real Life Runners Podcast, episode number 472. Now get out there and run your life.